You're listening to Remotely We Are One, a podcast to help inspire others to take their lives back from the office commute. I'm Rick, a passionate beer rep who loves the industry but hates the commute.
And I'm Kaleem, a remote work advocate and consultant. We're going to speak with some of the top professionals who have managed to avoid the commute as they share stories from the most inspiring to the most comical, all while working remotely.
Man, this sounds exciting. Let's clock in.
Hi, I'm Tammy Bjelland, founder and CEO of Workplaceless, and I'm here live at the Relead Summit.
Yes, Relead!
Thanks for joining us, Tammy. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Bam, one take.
I am very happy to be here.
My goodness, it's great. It's great. We're talking today about async first practices, leading to autonomy and workplace flexibility. Can you talk a little bit, first and foremost, what async means?
I was going to say that. How do you spell it?
Okay, excellent question. Okay, so async is short for asynchronous.
Spell it.
Oh, that is hard. ASYNCHRONOUS.
That's awesome.
Asynchronous. It is way easier to just say async.
Definitely,
and I shorten it to
definitely.
just ASYNC, but I have also seen it with the H on it as
Absolutely.
well. So, however way.
I go with the C.
if I'm going to shorten it, I'm going to go all the way.
I concur.
Yes.
I concur.
So I prefer that. It's a lot easier to say. So asynchronous means not happening at the same time. And
Perfect.
It's probably easier to understand it in comparison with its antonym, which is synchronous, happening at the same time or simultaneously.
Okay.
So this conversation, for instance, right now is a synchronous conversation because we are all here at the same time. You're talking to me and I'm responding immediately.
Yep.
Asynchronous means it's not happening at the same time. So for instance, if we are on text messaging, Rick sends me a text, I'm at a museum, I'm out and about, and I don't respond for like a couple of hours.
Yeah.
That's asynchronous.
Okay.
So when we talk about asynchronous communication, we're talking about having those delays. And those delays are important because that is when you get work done, right?
Yeah.
So an async first environment is one that prioritizes asynchronous communication over synchronous communication in order to improve autonomy. So that ability to get work done wherever you want, however you want, as well as continuity and productivity. Because if you aren't relying on other people for information, you can just get your work done whenever you need to.
Wow.
Okay. So I totally get asynchronous. Understand that. How do you even implement that? Like, what types of changes do you have to even make? Like,
To get everyone on the same page.
Yeah. And do you have to rethink how you've been working this whole time? Like, do you have to say, okay, I need to plan out my thoughts? What do you have to do mentally to kind of change into implementing it?
Yeah, it can be really overwhelming because if you're thinking, oh gosh, I love talking with people. I don't want to do all async. Don't think about doing all async. It's about improving the balance of synchronous and asynchronous communication.
Okay.
So when you have an imbalance that skews towards very heavily synchronous, you are in meetings all the time. You are constantly waiting on other people. Kaleem, I'm waiting for this answer from Kaleem and I can't finish my project without this like really important information.
Right.
And so you're constantly dependent on other people's time. And so that is that's a symptom of being very heavily dependent on synchronous communication to get anything done. So what we talk about at Workplaceless is moving that needle a little bit to improve the balance. So you have a healthy balance for your team because it's going to be different for every single team and every organization. So you might have some people that are really extroverted and they just really want to be around people and they thrive off that energy. That team is going to include more synchronous gatherings, for instance, to give that to their employees that really need that. Whereas a team that might not have that need, they can move towards the more asynchronous side of the spectrum. So it's not all or nothing, right? You can introduce asynchronous practices. And the good thing about async is that we've all been doing it. If you can write, which We all can in this room. And if you're working in a knowledge-based role, you know how to write as well. So we've all been communicating asynchronously. We all have phones, we can text, we can send emails. We all use async communication. The problem with the amount of tools and the amount of communication platforms we have now is that we have used these async tools in a synchronous way. So email, if you respond right away, oh, I got this email, it's 9 p.m. I'm relaxing at home with my spouse. I got this email. I'm just going to respond really quickly.
Yeah.
Why?
Why
do you need to do that?
Right.
And so as soon as it's a habit. And so you develop this habit by constantly practicing that behavior.
Yes.
And then you ingrain and you internalize this idea that you have to respond that quickly to everything. When you don't. Right? Every message has a different priority level, right? Kaleem sending me the address for the hotel that we're going to stay at next week. Is that urgent?
Not right now.
No, not right now.
Don't need to respond.
Right. However, if I am lost and I'm in the Uber and I don't have the address anywhere and I'm like, Kaleem, I want to attend this summit. I need to be there. Where is the hotel? That's urgent. Right. So sometimes it depends on timing. It depends on the context. And so you need to provide that information when you're sending messages. Yeah. So anyway, I got off track a little bit, but so it's not all or nothing. You don't have to change everything, but think about how much time you're spending in meetings. That's my first suggestion always. And think about what is the purpose of those meetings.
The coolest thing I've seen is the implementation of an async meeting. And the idea is that, the meeting is scheduled for a time, right? But you don't actually show up on video. It would be like in Slack or Teams or whatever. And, the moderator of the meeting would post a question 1 with a 1, and everyone would, respond to that topic in that thread. And then question number 2 and respond to that topic in that thread. Now, for the people that were able to attend, they show up and they respond to those things. So it's kind of like a little bit of a mixture of synchronous, but the people who aren't available to attend at that time or just don't feel like attending the meeting at that time can still respond at a later time in an organized fashion. And they set a time limit on it. So they would say, you have 24 hours to listen, this is the meeting we're having. It's not option. The meeting time is optional, but your response is not optional.
Right. Yeah.
And you have 24 hours from the time of this post to respond.
Yeah. Cool. So that's an example of shifting the format.
That's amazing.
Shifting the format of a meeting to match what the desired outcome is. So many people, we think, we need to do this. We need to do 5 different things, 5 different purposes. And we use a meeting for every single purpose. And you shouldn't do that, right? We should be thinking about what's the end goal and what are the ways that we can achieve that end goal without sucking up everybody's time. So if you think about one meeting that has 6 people, and it's an hour long, that's 6 hours of company time. That's not just 1 hour. That's 6 hours of company time. And if you are using 6 hours of company time to talk about an update, like this is something that's happening, I'm informing you, that is a waste of time because you can send that via email. You can send that via a video message.
Sure.
There are so many other ways to disseminate that information that doesn't require everyone to be tied to a certain place at a certain time. So it's really a question of introducing some small changes and at the same time, really thinking about the way that you work and setting some expectations that are shared and very explicit. So we talk about a communication charter. So that is a team agreement that, depending on the size of your team and how you make decisions, could be determined by just the leadership of a team. But sometimes teams like to all collaborate to come to an agreement on how to use communication channels. But so if you think about all the ways that we communicate, email, Slack, we can use Loom, we can use our project management software, we can use Google Docs to add comments. There's so much information coming at you, and you need to be able to prioritize what you're checking, right? So in a communication charter, you identify the communication channels that you will use as a team and what types of messages go into those channels.
Love it. I like your term charter. We call ours decision brick.
Yeah.
It's like when do you use email? When do you use Slack? When do you use meetings?
Yeah.
I love
So the charter is nice. And so, for instance, urgent messages should never be sent by email, right? So in our communication charter anyway. And that's one of the first things that a team should identify. Like, what exactly is an urgent message, right? Is it, I don't have the agenda for the meeting?
Right.
Maybe not, right? But there, can our client not access their portal, right? Or their information, or are we delivering a workshop and nobody has the Zoom link? Like, these are urgent messages. But again, it's going to be different for every single team.
Sure.
And so you have to decide what's urgent, what's high priority, what's normal priority, and then what's low priority.
That's interesting. We didn't go that deep. That's good.
Yeah. So
I'm
you
borrowing
have
that one too.
Great, fine. If we can all align on what channels we're using and when.
Wow.
But so many times what happens with, async really it captures just so many things that we do.
Yeah.
And we don't even really think about it. But when you think about how many messages we're getting bombarded with, like, we're getting sometimes the same information by email as we are via Slack. Right? And so there's a definite cognitive overload. Like, I'm like, okay, wait, I'm getting the same message here, but it's a little bit different. And like, this person responded about this here. And like, wait, I know I saw that comment about something. Where is it? And it's exhausting. Like, all of that mental energy that we're putting into finding information could be better used towards actually doing our jobs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Something that I was thinking about for Relead Summit, as far as communicating with all the advocates, I was like, everybody kind of checks different things. I was reading Chase Warrenton's post of how GitLab has created a personal README file.
Yep.
So that you understand how I best work. And it's on my employee profile. So I was thinking about that. I was like, geez, I don't want to only use Slack because some people don't like Slack. And I was like, I don't only want to use LinkedIn because some people don't like LinkedIn. And then I was like, email is just going to be ridiculous because I don't want to do we all hate reply all. It's the worst thing ever. You all remember those email threads with 30 people?
Some of them still go on.
So I ended up using Google Groups instead, because then when people reply, it's not going out to everybody. It's only coming to me. So at least, I can control that. So I do like that idea of defining and not, sending the same content to everything.
Yeah, it's mentally taxing when you think about all of the information that you're trying to sort through, and then you're just putting one additional burden on the receiver of that message.
So how would you account for, say, because everybody's different, right? Some people take a little longer to adapt to different cultures, and then quite honestly, some people are just not cut out for what they're doing. Eventually they figure that out. How do you account for somebody who seems to be, not catching up or seems to be a little bit behind, and maybe there's something going on? How do you say to them, how can I help you?
So is the question about, like, in an async environment, how do you help people who are running behind or who are...
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So with async first, there's still opportunities, and there should be regular opportunities for regular check-ins.
Sure.
The thing is, you have more bandwidth to actually address that than if you are constantly in meeting after meeting after meeting. And so ideally, you are in an environment that is measuring results, right? So the clue should be in the results. If the results are not being produced, then you have an issue. Also, ideally, I'm talking about, this is a very ideal situation. There should be enough psychological safety that individual should be able to say,
this is
I'm struggling with this. I feel behind. As well as there should be a healthy relationship between a supervisor and their direct report to be able to recognize, not just the clues that exist in the lack of productivity, but you can sense, if you are having those one-on-ones, you can sense when things are up. Another suggestion in an async first environment, and this is a really great way to just get a daily read on people. But you can have an async stand-up meeting. And I've been trying to shift that language because according to some people, it's not very inclusive. So like a daily check-in, like a regular daily check-in.
Sure. Yeah.
And so you can list in our team, what we use is you list your top 3 priorities for the day, if you have 3, no more than 3. Most people like list their whole to-do list, and it's about prioritizing what you're working on, and then identifying any blocks or challenges that you're encountering that day. And it could be work related, like I'm waiting on this response from someone, or I'm waiting on the proofs for this article, and or it could be personal, like my kids are homesick today and like I can't focus, or I have to take them to the doctor. And so it's a really easy way to get a gauge on how things are going. And so if you see somebody like maybe not responding, or like having a habit or a trend rather of I'm struggling today, that's a really good indicator to a supervisor, as well as to just a coworker, to check in on that person and see if they can provide any support to help them through that.
Sure. Awesome.
Yeah. So I got another question, kind of like, so you come into Relead, hanging out with a bunch of us experts together. It's been so cool. Finally got to meet you in person. So I'm really excited. What were you hoping to kind of learn from Relead? Like, what were some of the biggest challenges or some of the biggest blockers that you had with Asynchronous and implementing it? And then what were you hoping to kind of grasp from the group here to kind of help you with that?
Yeah, one of the biggest blockers to adopting more async practices is definitely leadership resistance, and especially at the executive level. So typically executive level leaders, they have a lot of experience, right? So, they've reached the point where they're at because they have been in that industry, or they've been in that role, or they've been in that company for a long time. And so they're more likely to have some very long-standing work habits and things that they prefer. And so it's more challenging to get people who are very entrenched in their ways of working to consider other ways of working, especially if they have a very hierarchical mindset. So that's been a challenge. Luckily, the courses that we provide and the training that we provide is really geared towards it's all levels. We have training for individual contributors as well as leaders. And within that training, we offer tools for people at any level in any organization to influence the people that they can influence, whether it's their coworkers or direct reports or managers, to influence up, throughout the organization. But that's been a challenge. And one of the things that I came to Relead to learn was some of the ways that other people are introducing the concept or introducing the value of exploring new ways of working to executive level leaders in a way that invites discussion and an open mind and a growth mindset, as opposed to yes,
I'm not stuck in my old.
Exactly. Yes. Well, yes. And so, I mean, if we were to, caricaturize, that response, it is very similar.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. Or
here's how it's going to be, see?
Yeah.
You're not going to want a hill of beans, see?
I can't do impressions, so I'm not even going to try. But yes, very similar to that. It's like, well, that's never going to work.
Right. Exactly.
That's never going to work. And why should I change the way I'm working? I'm successful. Look at everything that we've accomplished with the way that I'm working, and let's not change it. So that's been a challenge, and one of the reasons I wanted to come here.
Awesome.
And so I love different ways that everybody at this summit invited reframing conversations. As well as presenting different stories of success and failures too. I find that storytelling and sharing like real examples of what has happened and what's been successful is one of the most motivating things that you can experience as a business owner or as just an employee in a company, because you can see the growth, that has happened. So that was why I came.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're so glad you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's something that a lot of people might not know about you? An interesting factoid, or perhaps maybe something a little blushing. Might embarrass you.
A little.
Oh, fun.
A little blushing.
All right. I'll share a couple of things. I am scared of escalators. It's not super interesting, but I'm scared of escalators. Hate them. Hate them.
Wow, I can
Yeah.
relate. So did you have a bad dream or see a bad accident?
No, but whenever somebody sees like an article about like an escalator accident, they always send it to me. And I'm like, this is not helping. My phobia.
I'll take my boy with clowns.
But
I'm
like,
definitely doing that.
I mean, moving stairs, that's horrifying. That's
Yes.
horrifying.
I always think that my shoelace is going to get caught and my
Yes.
foot's going to get sucked in.
Who doesn't?
Or like, if you're wearing a long dress, like me, I don't know if either of you like to wear them, but I like to wear like long dresses and I freak out. So
Yeah.
stairs for me.
Generally dresses during Halloween.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what
there was
people
that
like.
weird Valentine's Day a few years ago.
Okay. We won't get into it. But so
And they also look like monsters. Escalators look like monsters
do.
that
True.
are eating freaking
Yes.
metal things.
Feet. They eat feet.
they eat feet. I mean, okay. So anyway, now you're going to be thinking about it. And in the DC area, let me tell you, there are some very scary escalators that
I'm glad I brought my
The Atlanta
steel-toed
airport
shoes.
must be great for you.
No,
escalator.
it is not.
all the
It is
escalators.
not.
That's great.
So that's one interesting
Okay,
thing.
all
And
right.
then another interesting thing that also could be somewhat embarrassing, I don't know, but I really love the Real Housewives franchise.
Oh.
Franchises.
yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
So that's my
That's
my
so
like
cool.
guilty
Definitely judging you.
pleasure.
Definitely judging you now.
That's
Well,
all right.
we can have a whole discussion about the merits of
The
Real
merits.
Housewives.
It's
I'm
entertainment.
happy.
It's entertainment.
Entertainment, but it's also a very rare opportunity to see women over
Uh-huh.
a certain age and their friendships.
Yeah.
Where else on TV are you able to really see women being
You
friends and
almost sold
sometimes
me.
not being
Yeah.
friends?
Yeah.
But
You almost
it's
sold
really
me on it.
fascinating.
Like honestly, I as you were saying, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should give Housewives of Atlanta a shot.
I'm not
should.
saying
You
you
should.
have to,
You
but
should.
I find it very fascinating.
I mean, I
and
thought I
I've been-
saw Kiki somewhere recently. Was that somebody?
that name does not sound familiar,
Okay.
but I mean, I don't watch all the franchises.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that's my thing. I
Okay.
like to watch The Real Housewives.
Okay,
Cool. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
that's great. Again, thank you for joining us. Tell our viewers where they might be able to find you online.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Tammy Bjelland, and I'll spell my last name, Bjelland. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So you can find me there, and you can always find me through the Workplaceless website, www.workplaceless.com.
Awesome. Thank
Tammy,
you.
this
Thank
has been
you.
an absolute pleasure.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. I'm happy
Glad
to
you
be
could
here.
join us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Remotely We Are One podcast. Visit us at remotelyone.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.